Hey there, it's Erica Davis, and I am so glad you're here. You are here maybe for a couple different reasons. Maybe you're trying to figure out, I don't know, is this the right fucking training for me? Do I take a training with this like Erica Davis of whole body pregnancy person? Like, how can I know? If that's you, I don't know. Only you know that. I think I'm pretty awesome. I think my training is pretty badass. So here is the deal. I have been a birth worker for almost 9 years in August. And through that time, I did a lot of really amazing learning from a lot of really amazing folks. And I realized that so much of what I was learning was from people who didn't look like me and people who didn't share the same life experience as me. And what I mean by that is clearly, I am a person who is Black. So, other than my first training, which was amazing, which was at Ancient Song Doula Services, which is out of Brooklyn, New York, with Chanel Portia. And if you're in Brooklyn, by all means, please, please, please learn from Chanel. She is a gift and so fucking amazing. But other than that first training, everyone else that I learned from was either a person who was white or straight or Christian. And that's just not who I am. My trainers were also people who lived in small bodies. I didn't have a single trainer that was a person of size. And the material that I was learning didn't reflect who I was. It didn't reflect my experience, and it didn't reflect the community that I was working with. So I created Whole Body Pregnancy, Childbirth Education, mainly because I found that it seemed that was the best way to make a big impact for people, to start this sort of process of educating both people who are pregnant and people who want to work with pregnant people around childbirth education made sense to me, right? Because that's what people come to. They know that they are supposed to do a childbirth education class, and then they walk into this class and it's super straight, super white, super thin, super Christian. So Whole Body Pregnancy started as a childbirth education class. And from that class grew the childbirth educator training. And from childbirth educator training grew postpartum doula training, which is maybe why you're here for postpartum doula training. So this postpartum doula training is written from the point of view that understands that when someone gives birth, they give birth not just to the human baby that they are possibly holding in their arms, but they're also giving birth to themselves as a parent. And that so much of this process is focused on the lead up and nothing substantially works to help people with what happens next. And my childbirth education class, when I teach educators and when folks take childbirth education with me, we do focus on postpartum because it's not just about giving birth. It's not just about the birthday. It's about what happens next. But postpartum doula training specifically is really, really honing in on how we care for people who give birth. And not just how we care for people who give birth, but how we care for people who are postpartum. And in that expansive understanding of what it means to be postpartum, this includes people who lose children, people whose babies didn't make it earthside, people whose babies made it earthside but then passed away afterwards, people who experience miscarriage and pregnancy loss, and people who choose to terminate their pregnancies for whatever reasons. And the reason is because when you go from a state of being pregnant to not pregnant, you are postpartum. Now, do people who have a miscarriage do all people who have miscarriages consider themselves postpartum? Maybe, maybe not. But I believe that everyone who goes from being pregnant to not pregnant deserves care. They deserve support. And when I say support, I teach and I encourage people that I work with who are planning for their postpartum, or as I'm training postpartum care providers or postpartum doula, I want us to think about who is supporting you physically. How are you finding support mentally? How are you finding support spiritually? How are you finding support emotionally? Who is supporting the gestational parent? Who is supporting the non-gestational parent? How are we caring for the person who gave birth? So in this postpartum doula training, we are going to start with the very first lesson about what we as individuals, what we as doulas, what we as birth workers believe. And it's so important, in my opinion, that birth workers who have the intention of doing this work with people who want to be holding space and being in community with people who are postpartum, we really need to work on our own shit. I can't tell you how many times in birth groups I see doula's shit getting in the way of how we care for people. So we really start our time together talking about who we are and what we believe. And my goal of training isn't that I make you believe what I believe, but that you start to really believe what you believe. And that in understanding who you are and what you believe will help you determine who you should work with. Because there's a doula for everyone, and nobody needs to be the doula for everyone. I'm going to say that again. There's a doula for everyone, and no one needs to be the doula for everyone, right? You aren't meant to be a doula that works with every single person. And to seek to do that is impossible, because there are things that you believe and things that you don't believe. So we really start to work on that. We start to uncover what it means to truly be affirming to people, to sort of re-examine these buzzwords of inclusivity and diversity, to really get down to the core of the fact that in order to live those buzzwords, we need to actually see people for who they are. And if we're seeing people for who they are, we're actually affirming them. And that means that I see you in your humanity as an individual human being with your own individual needs, your own individual thoughts, your own individual goals, et cetera, et cetera. And that will look different for every family that I work with. That's hard work. So we also talk about how we care for ourselves as birth workers when we do this work, and to really think about like, what support strategies do we have as birth workers so that we can be in this work with intentionality, with love, with support, but also supporting and sustaining ourselves as birth workers. We look at postpartum anatomy and how to care for the physical health of people who give birth. We look at how we can honor and support the fact that there's a huge transition that is made when someone gives birth. There's a huge transition that happens, and we support and honor that. We also talk about how to care for relationships, and whether the person who we're caring for is giving birth and plans on parenting solo, or if they're giving birth and they have other adults in their family. We really look at how we're caring for the relationships that that change and evolve when a baby is born into a family. We talk about how to set up your business as a doula, as a birth worker, how to care for pelvises. I mean, there's so much that we do. I can't even get into it all, but it's such a complex and in-depth and I think incredibly powerful space that I hold. And I don't ever come into teaching these sessions believing that I know everything. I go into these sessions as someone who's facilitating learning. And it is my complete honor and privilege that you're considering taking a training with me. I would love to have you in class. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, and I will be happy to answer what I can. I am happy to offer payment plans so that I can make the course accessible. There's the option to join me virtually and the option to join me in person in May of 2023, virtually in September of 2022, in person May of 2023. Yeah, I'm pumped. I hope you are too. I bring to the space a wealth of knowledge from guest teachers, and I can't wait to welcome you into the community that is whole body pregnancy.